In November 1895, as Japanese warships silently entered the Taiwan Strait, the island's destiny began to undergo a dramatic transformation. This beautiful land, once part of the Qing dynasty, was ceded to Japan after the defeat in the First Sino-Japanese War. For most people, this history may seem like a fleeting memory, but for the people of Taiwan, it represents a painful and bloody past. Taiwan's resistance lasted not just 14 years, but a full 50 years. You heard correctly, the Taiwanese people's struggle against Japanese rule outlasted that of mainland China. From 1895 to 1945, over 5 decades of relentless resistance, Taiwanese wrote an indomitable chapter in history with blood and fire. At that time, Taiwan still reeled under the deep shadow of the First Sino-Japanese War. To preserve itself, the Qing government ceded Taiwan to Japan through the Treaty of Shimonoseki, yet countless Taiwanese refused to accept this fate. The Qing's cowardice fueled the people's fury and awakened them to a truth. Only by standing up themselves could they defend the dignity of this land. Do you think only a handful of historical figures appeared in this war? No. Countless heroic individuals and tragic tales emerged here. Their sacrifices and perseverance became symbols of Taiwan's resistance against Japan. Today we will delve into Taiwan's history of anti-Japanese resistance and uncover those unsung heroic deeds. The tragedy after the First Sino-Japanese War and Taiwan's cession. In 1894, the First Sino-Japanese War erupted. The Qing dynasty suffered a crushing defeat, with the Beiyang fleet nearly annihilated. Li Hongzong, tasked with negotiations, was even shot in Tokyo, Japan's capital. Though he attempted to use his injury as leverage to reduce indemnity payments, Japan clearly denied him this opportunity. Following the defeat, the Qing dynasty signed the Treaty of Shimonoseki, ceding Taiwan and the Penghu Islands to Japan. Li Hongzong's disappointment and weakness deeply wounded the hearts of the Taiwanese people. Intellectuals and patriots in Taiwan, witnessing the humiliating treaty signed by the Qing dynasty, were filled with boundless anger. At that moment, Taiwan's resistance began as a small-scale uprising but gradually ignited a massive wave of national sentiment and fighting spirit. Chu Funjia's blood petition and the establishment of the Republic of Formosa. Chu Funjia, a patriot brimming with national sentiment, wrote a blood petition without hesitation after the Qing cession of Taiwan, demanding the court reclaim the island. Yet, confronting the court's incompetence and complacency, Chu Funjia realized he and his compatriots could only rely on themselves. Together with Tang Jingsong and others, they established the Republic of Formosa, naming its heir Yangqing to demonstrate loyalty to the Qing court. This spontaneous resistance movement propelled Taiwan onto the path of confronting Japanese forces. Taiwan's early resistance, the first fierce clash between the righteous army and Japanese forces. In 1895, when Japanese troops landed in Taiwan, the local populace immediately rose in resistance. The righteous army led by Chu Funjia became the greatest obstacle to the Japanese advance. Although the Japanese ultimately occupied Taiwan after intensifying their troop deployments, they never anticipated the Taiwanese people's tenacious resilience. Wherever we advanced, the local villagers became our enemies. This passage from Japanese military records reveals the fearless spirit of Taiwan's resistance. At that time, men, women, and children alike joined the struggle, undaunted by enemy force and even risking their lives to protect their homes. Japan's colonial policies and the eradication of Taiwanese culture. Following their occupation of Taiwan, the Japanese military initiated a series of cultural assimilation and economic exploitation measures. They enforced Japanese language education, compelling Taiwanese people to learn Japanese and even banning the use of Chinese. In schools, students were required to communicate in Japanese, facing severe punishment for any deviation. Beyond cultural assimilation, the Japanese military's economic policies were ruthless. Taiwan's agriculture underwent radical transformation, with vast quantities of crops shipped to Japan. While the Taiwanese people were forced into agricultural and industrial slavery, Japan treated Taiwan as a forward base for its invasion of China, exploiting its resources on a massive scale and continuously draining Taiwan's wealth. Lin Xiaomiao's resistance and sacrifice. Under such oppressive conditions, Taiwanese resistance persisted. Lin Xiaomiao, the hero from Pingdong, steadfastly stood with the Taiwanese people against overwhelming odds. In 1898, he led a guerrilla force in a counterattack, successfully breaching Kyoju City. His troops killed several Japanese officials and burned down the Japanese command headquarters. Yet Lin Xiaomiao's bravery provoked fierce retaliation from the Japanese forces. After exhaustive efforts, they discovered his vulnerability, his annual return home to celebrate his mother's birthday. This clue enabled the Japanese army to ambush and kill this great resistance hero. The spirit of the Taiwanese people burns eternal. Although Taiwan finally witnessed Japan's surrender in 1945, the Taiwanese people's spirit of resistance over 5 decades remains forever etched in the annals of history. Whether through the uprising of the righteous army or the advocacy of the Cultural Association, the Taiwanese people never relinquished their yearning for freedom or their love for their homeland. Today, as we revisit this history, we do so not only to honor those heroic martyrs but also to show the world that Taiwan's anti-Japanese struggle was equally remarkable, filled with countless moving stories.